Hey everyone, and welcome to Television for the Multiverse, the DC TV podcast from MailFuzz TV. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Connor.
Yes, it is.
That was very enthusiastic from me. Give me enthusiasm in return.
It didn't feel like real enthusiasm.
It was proper enthusiasm.
It felt like, I suppose I should.
Okay, fine. We talk about DC TV shows, and this week is notable because we have the first ever episode of the new DC Universe show. We have Doom Patrol, which we'll be talking about, which we actually already talked about. We recorded that for YouTube on its own, like we do with some episode ones, and it's going to be edited into this show as well. So that's already been up for a while if you're on the YouTube. If you're on the audio podcast, then this is the first you're hearing of it, you're fine. If you have seen it on YouTube already, there will be timestamps. You can skip ahead past that to the next show when we get there. There's some news first, though. Don't go skipping ahead now. There's some news, but Doom Patrol...
Is there interesting news?
It's just fairly interesting.
Okay, I'll be the judge of that.
Don't downplay it. But yeah, so we got Doom Patrol as the main event. We have one new episode of Supergirl that came back for 1 week before, I believe, going on for another break for another week.
Yeah, taking a week off.
So we have that, and then on top of that we have archive episodes of The Flash 90s, Gotham, and an episode of Batman the Animated Series. So that is what's coming up in this show. Because if you don't know, if this is one of the first episodes of this you've ever clicked on, because it's Doom Patrol's first week, when we don't have enough shows of the new stuff of Supergirl, Flash, Arrow, Black Lightning, so on, we'll swap in some archive old content, old TV shows that we've not spoke about before. So the ones we're working our way through just now are 90s Flash, Gotham Season 1, and Batman the Animated Series. So that's what we're doing. Excellent. So we'll actually have to double check what's actually going to be on next week's show, because it's going to be a weird week because Connor's on vacation for most of the week. So as much as we normally sub in some archive content, next week might be a little bit different, and we might not sub in as much because we actually have to record after Connor's been away for most of the week. So in an effort to make sure we get things done in a reasonable amount of time, it may be a shorter episode next week. So we're warning you that now.
Yeah, but I mean, Doom Patrol's there. That'll carry an entire show. You're fine.
We have to have something with Doom Patrol, though,
Have
right?
something with it. Just don't know what yet.
Gotham.
No, I don't. I don't think I have a night where I can get hammered for Gotham.
You're gonna have to just do it sober.
No, not doing it. We'll do Flash. Not doing Gotham. It's not happening.
Do 90s Flash and a Batman, maybe. I don't know. Because are any of the other shows on next week? I don't think they are.
No, nothing's on.
Nothing's on. It'll just be Doom Patrol and some archive stuff. So expect a shorter episode next week. But hey, so yeah, what's in the news? What's happened in the news in terms of DC TV? A couple of small casting things, basically, is what's happened. Douglas Scott has been cast as Jacob Kane in Batwoman for the pilot.
Cool. So
notably, I imagine he'll be a regular if the show's picked up. Cause,
at the worst, he'll be recurring.
Yeah, because Jacob Kane is a recurring character for Batwoman. And well, I could buy them eventually doing like a big death thing for him if they want to get rid of him. It has to be at least a regular thing in the first season. Like, they have to have him be around for a while.
Yeah, definitely.
So that makes sense. And then the other bit of casting we got was for Stargirl. We got Heather's actor Cameron Gelman has been cast in an unnamed role, although they did confirm that he's playing an existing DC character.
Okay. I mean, doesn't help, does it?
No, it doesn't really. I mean, I'm assuming they mean the TV show Heathers, because I'm assuming this is someone who's young.
I was making the same assumption.
But, I mean, it could be like an older character, because we know there's going to be some legacy GSA characters in this, so it totally could be an older person.
Yeah,
from the movie.
You didn't think to just Google their name?
I'll do it right now.
Yeah. No, it's not too much to ask. You just highlight it and right-click, and, you can see if they're an old person or not.
Shut up. This is definitely a young person.
Okay.
Definitely. Unless he's just really done wonders. Good skincare routine. That he appears 30 years younger than he should be.
Hey, could happen.
But yeah, so that was the news. It didn't actually take that long because we don't know who these people are, so we don't really have much of an opinion on it.
No. Sorry, a bit boring.
Yeah, let's say. Which does mean, though, we get to the main event quicker. So if you already saw the YouTube video where we talked about Doom Patrol for about 30 minutes or so, you can skip to the next show in the timestamps. However, everyone else stick around because this is going to be Doom Patrol Season 1, Episode 1. It is simply called The Pilot. Yeah, we liked the Doom Patrol episode of Titans quite a bit. That was probably the best episode of that season,
Comfortably.
and we were pretty optimistic about this show.
Yeah.
So, coming into it, we literally just read the first volume of Grant Morrison's Doom Patrol run for another show this week. So we brushed up in some Doom Patrol knowledge a little bit, although we're definitely not experts by any means. But
No, we got the basics.
Got some basics down. And we have this episode, we have a hell of a cast. We got Brendan Fraser as Robot Man, at least the voice of Robot Man, and he appears in some flashbacks. But he's we got Timothy Dalton as the Chief, Niles Calder.
Yeah.
You know.
You got Matt Bomer as the voice of Larry.
And we get Alan Tudyk as the villain, as Mr. Nobody. So, which is actually how the episode starts. It starts with him narrating and a little bit of like his origin story, before it sort of spells into what I would call the episode as a whole as the origin story. It kind of it neatly gives you some origin stuff for all the main characters, with the exception of Calder himself. He's still sort of kind of mysterious. I'm sure we'll get some backstory on him down the line. But we get some backstory on the rest of the characters. Although we definitely focus more on Robot Man, which I think is interesting because one of the things we talked about the first arc of Grant Morrison's Doom Patrol, which was like a relaunch of the series in many ways, is that it kind of used Robot Man as the central figure to kind of draw people into the world. And I think the show also, even though things are different from that book, it does the same sort of technique where it uses him, it uses Cliff as the heart of the show, even though he's not the best person in the world. You know, when we see him as a human, as a human being in the flashbacks, he's not a great guy. Like, he does some shitty things.
Kind of shitty, yeah.
But he clearly cares in some other ways, and it kind of uses him. So we get introduced to him, we get introduced to Crazy Jane, we get introduced to Rita, we get introduced to Negative Man, to Larry. So these are our main four over the course of the episode. Notably no Cyborg this episode. I assume he'll be added in later.
Yeah, which is the only thing that I'm not seeing where he fits, because what is Cyborg going to offer different from Robot Man? Like, genuinely, that's what I'm questioning, and I'm sure the show can answer that hopefully next week.
I'm sure there'll be some jokes about it. There's some
sure
similarities.
Yeah, I mean, I was not expecting this show to be as self-aware as it is. So yeah, there might well be some jokes about it.
Yeah, well, there's some meta jokes, although I think it's notable that the meta jokes only come from one particular character.
Yeah.
And I think that one particular character gets away with this because I feel like the way they're going to treat his powers and his relationship to art and art becoming life, I feel like that's where that's coming from. It's not that, I don't think Robot Man and Crazy Jane are going to start dropping references to things.
No, of course not.
Yeah.
But it leaves it open for the show to actively address it.
Yes. So so we get this story that spans decades, sort of explaining the origin of Robot Man and the other characters. And yeah, I mean, I'll just kind of leave it there. We'll talk about the plot more in spoilers when we get to it. So, did you enjoy episode 1 of Doom Patrol?
Oh, a lot. I thought this was pretty fantastic.
I liked it a lot too. I actually, I was really into it. Honestly, my only real complaints, really broad complaints, is that a lot of the effects do look quite cheap, and they stuck out to me.
Yeah. There's one character's effect in particular that feels cheaper than
there was
rest.
a few moments. There's a couple of explosions that looked quite bad. There was a couple of things that just looked a bit rough. And it's funny because there's one character in particular who's very effects heavy that I think looks actually quite good. But I think it's because it's a very abstract effect. It doesn't really matter that it doesn't look photoreal, if that makes sense. Whereas the other stuff, not so hot. But this is the thing, we complained about the effects on Titans as well. Clearly, DC Universe has a fairly low budget for its shows right now. They can't afford...
I think the effects on this are better than some of the ones in Titans. At least, like, they're more consistent in this episode than they were across Titans. And Titans definitely had some moments that were far, far worse than anything in this.
Yeah, I feel like it's weird though because this is a show that, at least from this first episode,
it's a lot more reliant on them.
It's going to rely on effects a lot more often. Yeah. So as much as perhaps they were better overall than Titans, I think because it has to rely on them, it maybe sticks out more. Whereas in Titans, you could go an entire episode without needing an effect. An episode of that, and then it would just be like one scene. There'd be like a quick jolt of, oh, this thing looks quite bad,
and it would look awful. Yeah.
But Honestly, though, that's my only real complaint is the effects looking a bit ropey, because everything else, like stuff I complained about in Titans, like there's some male things that maybe carry over. Like I have no problem with like, these characters being a bit more mature and using F bombs and stuff. I did think they maybe did it a little bit too often.
They use the F word so much.
Yeah.
So much. I mean, it feels a lot more tonally consistent and in keeping with what the show is, though, compared to Titans. Where Titans it felt edgy, here it just felt humorous.
The only character that stuck out as being weird for me was Crazy Jane, just based on what I've read of Doom Patrol from Grant Morrison.
Yeah,
I never got the impression that she, like, the base Crazy Jane person, because Crazy Jane, if you don't know, if you're watching this for just the spoiler-free section, Crazy Jane's a character with 64 personalities, and each one has their own superpower. But there's like a base, the Jane personality is the base one, right? That's the most common. I never got the impression in the book that she was this mouthy, or that had this much attitude, I guess.
That's fair.
And it's not so much a complaint, it just stuck out to me as I was watching this, that she had a bit of a foul mouth, and I'm like, oh, I didn't expect that. Like, Hammerhead, when she becomes Hammerhead personality, sure.
Oh, absolutely,
yeah, go for it.
No one's as bad as Cliff, though.
Oh, Cliff was dropping them left and right.
I think I said in the Doom Patrol episode of Titans that his F-bomb in that was the most natural that had been in the whole show.
Oh yeah, most of them here are fine as well. Because what's funny actually, there's a quick sex scene early on with a little bit of nudity, and I actually laughed at that just because Titans had this weird thing where it wanted to feel like it would show nudity, but somehow like digitally avoided it by like blurring up, darkening areas. Yeah, it was weird. So Doom Patrol doing that in the first episode was just like, okay, Doom Patrol's not going to pull any punches, just go for it. I was like, okay, cool, it's fine.
Yeah, I guess they even though it's on the same service, I think they're getting away with it a little more because it's Doom Patrol, right? Compared to Titans, which has maybe a bit more name recognition for most people.
Or it could just be a case of maybe making Titans a mature, or at least pretending it's a mature show was maybe a bad idea.
Yeah.
I actually ended up enjoying a lot more Titans than I thought I would, but it does have a lot of problems.
You liked it a lot more than I did.
It does have a lot of problems, though, and that was definitely one of them. Was gritty. Oh, we have to be mature and edgy and swear a lot.
I will say I am very happy that the very best part of Titans carries over to this show, and that is the music, because same composer on board.
Yeah, the music's quite good. Although I wasn't really noticing it too much in the first half. It was the second half where it really started to pop for me.
Oh, I was noticing a lot of things in the flashbacks. They were contextual to the time periods. A lot of what they were doing there, which I don't think it stood out as much as towards the end, where you got the synthy stuff that was a lot more in keeping with what we had in Titans.
That's what I liked. But yeah, just to go back to the complaint about the swearing and stuff, you kind of diverted me on a new thing there. I just, with Titans, it didn't feel like it fit the characters that were there. And you can argue that the characters, it's a new adaptation, they're doing different versions. I'm like, yeah, fine, whatever. But
it just never felt natural coming out of their mouths. So it
never did. It feels like Titans is a show you should be marketing to be more PG-13 to appeal to a wide array of people. Whereas Doom Patrol is a bit weird. It's a bit more not cliche, a bit more niche is what I meant to say. It's anything but cliche.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I don't think you know what cliche means.
Yeah, no, it's a bit more niche, so it makes more sense for this to be the mature, weird show. And it works as that. The characters are pretty likable, even though most of them, to some extent, I think Larry's the exception, but every other one is a bit of a dick in a different way. Like when we see Rita's backstory, like what she is complaining about in her flashback, we'll talk about it in spoilers, but it's like, man, you're a bitch. What? You're awful. And then Crazy Jane has a bit of an attitude. Certainly some of her personalities have a serious attitude.
Yeah. There's a fantastic line in the narration that sets Larry apart. And I think it was along the lines of, he always thought he was a monster, but he wasn't until he became the negative man.
Yeah.
And it was this idea of no, he's the only one that wasn't a dickbag.
Yeah, everyone else is a bit of a shithead. Even though they all have hope, they all have redeemable qualities, they all have
and they're all likable, even through this, but they're not just out and out good people.
And I think what I like about the show is that it nails this balance of quirky humor, but also this sadness. There's this sadness to it, and I think this fits as a big part of what makes Doom Patrol kind of work as an idea. is that it has this sadness of them all losing who they were, and they all feel like misfits. They all feel like they're separate from the world. But I think it's summed up because at one point Larry says to Robot Man, "Oh, a sense of humor will do you good. Work on that sense of humor." And I'm like, yeah, that kind of feels what it is. It's like a bunch of lunatics that are kind of weirdos, but they have just enough heart and humor to make it all work and click together.
Yeah. No, I really like this episode.
I liked it a lot as well.
Just funny is Umbrella Academy launched on Netflix today, and a very similar tone of characters and what it's doing there, and we watched that and we went, yeah, this is really good. And I said, Doom Patrol, yeah, we mentioned them launching on the same day was a bit weird, and I said Doom Patrol's got a lot to live up to, and I came out of this preferring this one out of the two first episodes.
I think it's there's positives and negatives to both of them if you're comparing them. I think
yeah, there is.
Doom Patrol is more confident on a technical level. The direction had more of a distinct style. It felt really tight in what it was doing. I think from a technical perspective, the Umbrella Academy pilot is a better episode. This, I think, made me like the characters more than Umbrella Academy. And I like the characters in Umbrella Academy. That's not a knock on Umbrella Academy. I feel like that by the end of this episode, though, I felt like I was really rooting for them. Like, I was really rooting for them by the last scene.
Yeah, definitely.
And that was, it's funny, actually, because I felt like there was a lot packed out of this episode. It was a full hour long, pretty much.
Flew in, though.
It flew in, but it also felt densely packed. It didn't feel like it was all over that quickly either. It felt like we went through a lot of different things.
Because we had the individual flashbacks for each of them that were mostly relatively significant chunks, right? Like they weren't short, like here's 90 seconds. They were good chunks.
Yeah.
And then you have all the actual present day plot alongside that. There's quite a lot in there.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because the actual plot of the season, if you would call it that, doesn't really get going until the last 20 minutes because it spends a lot of this first episode just setting up who the main characters are.
Just getting them together in the house.
Although 3 of them are there for a long time, like because we go over 25 years of time over the first chunk of this episode. So yeah, no, the first episode's really good. It has a lot of heart. It has the quirky humor, and it really feels. And the thing I like most about Doom Patrol, from what I've read of it, and this episode kind of captures this, is this idea of a team of misfits who really feel like they have no hope of being relevant, but they're going to do it anyway, and they're probably going to save the day because of that. And that has incredible heart to it. They're not this group of they're not the Justice League. They're not this group of good-looking people who all have super god powers. No, all of their powers or all of their abilities or circumstances come with a lot of caveats that are not pleasant.
Yeah, these guys are the epitome of the idea of the superpowers being a curse.
They're you could go that route. I would go down the route is that they're basically like Swamp Thing would not be out of place on this team. This idea that they all feel like they've become monsters, but ultimately that monster can be used for good, or even Hulk. Like Hulk's another good example of this. Where
I think Hulk is the first example of it's a curse, not a blessing, right?
Yeah. And mainstream comics, sure. I'm sure there's definitely movie characters and stuff. I'm thinking.
I'm thinking in comics.
Yeah. So we'll give the spoiler warning for episode 1 of Doom Patrol. So full warning from here on. So there's some interesting things. There's some interesting little twisteroos. I like the twist with Robot Man. Like he thinks he was in the accident on the track because he's a race car driver.
Yeah, and we don't question it because that's how it happens in the comic.
Yeah, at least in the version we read in Grant Morrison's run, he did just have unless there's a twist in the second volume.
As far as I know, that was always just the origin.
As far as I know,
that was what I was familiar with for a while.
No, but I'm putting it out there because people have read more of it. They're going to so.
No. I'm saying, even before I read this, that was always what I was familiar with.
Yeah, but the twist is, of course, that that wasn't how this accident happened. He survived that. It was fine. And it was actually, after another couple of nights away from his wife, he ended up apologising to her, and he went and picked his wife and his daughter up. And it was driving them, and the wife died as well. And, he's led to believe that the daughter died in the crash as well. But although there's some... later on, it's basically confirmed from Calder, after Crazy Jane kind of brings it up, that No, the daughter did survive.
Yeah.
And Calder was trying to protect Cliff by not, don't want to see a daughter who's, at this point would be, like 30 or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, should be an adult. So
yeah, maybe probably a bit older because it was 88 when he had the accident, and she was at least
true, yeah,
5 or 6.
True, yeah. So she's probably in her late 30s then.
Yeah.
But so it does that, and that gives you like a gut punch, and that's when I say, like, as much as we get like an equal kind of like intro for all the characters, all the main 4 characters, it does always keep coming back to Robot Man. The structure that fits around all these flashbacks is him learning to walk, it's him learning to talk. It's like it's his story.
Yeah, we meet all the other characters through him. It's when he meets them.
And then the narration kind of leads it off into, Alan Tudyk's doing the narration. Alan Tudyk's voicing Mr. Nobody. But I say voicing, he's technically also
he's playing.
He's playing them, yeah. And a wonderful effect. You don't see him, of course, until the end of the episode. So Calder's going away for something, and they're not supposed to leave the house. But Crazy Dane's like, "No, let's leave the house."
Yeah,
so,
F this. Let's go have some fun.
So they all go into town, and you're like, "Oh god, it's going to go badly." I love how no one ever seems to question Robot Man. There's never anyone walking past him in the street that goes, "Hey, there's a robot."
There's a few people who look, and I think you see a couple of people maybe take some pictures.
Because people react way more to Negative Man in the bar, I think.
They
do.
do.
Robot Man.
Yeah.
But Rita starts to like melt because she's talking to this waitress, and because she used to be an actress, of course, and about the films, and she's liking hearing a little bit of these stories about how she's loved by her and her father. Ultimately, she hears this thing that her father said she went on to do porn, and she gets mortified, and clearly,
so that's what people think of her now.
Yeah, and clearly, like, her losing control of her elasticity is related to her own, like,
state of mind.
State of mind, yeah. I don't want to quite say ego. It's not ego, but like when she gets insecure, when she feels like she's not confident in herself, it goes. And it becomes like a sci-fi movie where she becomes this big blob going down the street. And this is where the first kind of a heroic thing happens, where Cliff like tries to save the school bus, so he rips up the concrete.
Yeah, well, Crazy Jane wants to step in first with whatever power that was.
I didn't recognise what one of the personalities that was, but it's nice to know they're planning on her changing physically, because I'm looking forward to Black Annis.
Yeah, do you know what that one looked like to me? Because you only see it for a quick glimpse. It looked like in the Doom Patrol comic that we just read, there's the 3 assassins,
the planet
with the planet heads, and she looked like the one with the sun head. And I was like, okay, cool. Hope we see more of that at some point.
No, that's interesting. It's interesting. And yeah, this was all delightful, and even little details like Larry like ordering a beer, like the way he phrases it, says, "Would you mind if I ordered a drink?" Like expecting the guy to be weirded out and not wanting to serve him, but he does serve him. And he's excited about doing this, but then his negative power starts flaring up.
Starts acting up, yeah. He runs out of there.
Yeah, and there's a little twist here as well for the episode where you find out even though he was happily married, he was actually gay. Which, and keep in mind, this all happened in the 60s, different time period. So he was treated extremely harshly at the time for it.
That's why I was referred to when he said he thought he was a monster. Interesting that this narration coming from Mr. Nobody. Clearly, he's not homophobic. He's a villain, but because he's very obvious. He thought he was a monster, but he wasn't until then.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing is that a lot of the narration doesn't even sound that villainous. There's the odd little thing maybe, but
yeah. There's just little twinges here or there.
Yeah, it's not until the end where it really goes full thingy. But like it's so there's some really funny little moments in that. At one point he says something like he's talking about critics and he's like, what do they know? They'll hate this show anyway.
It got really early on. It got meta, and I was like, "Oh, okay." I was not expecting this vibe.
Yeah, one of the first lines of I think he says is like, another superhero TV show. Yeah, that's what everyone wants. It was something to that effect.
Yeah.
That was like one of the first things he said, and it was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like, okay, you're immediately setting the tone for me.
Yeah. So yeah, Mr. Nobody at the end, the effect's really interesting. It's actually a lot like his comic book version, just with some extra elements in the face.
Yeah, you get just to see Turek a little bit.
Yeah, you see his mouth a little bit. It's kind of CG looking. It's not perfect, but it kind of works on him because he's meant to be this abstract kind of entity. I like when he clapped his hands together. It was just like 2D black, like
Yeah, I
hands.
kind of really like like you say, it kind of feels cheap in a way, but it feels really in keeping with that character's design.
Yeah, no, it works for him because he's meant to feel kind of weird. So I say kind of weird, really weird. So the heart of the episode though, is that once this happens and Calder comes back and everyone in town's like, oh, there was this weird blob attack today and all this happened. He's pissed. He's like, no, like there's consequences to this and something's coming for us now. He sees this deer in the street and he's looking at photos and there's this
More of
deer.
a donkey.
Was it a donkey?
Yeah.
Fair enough. But he's looking through all these photos and there's this donkey's appearing in all these different places, and he's like, something's coming. We have to leave. And Cliff's like, but like this thing's coming to the town. Then like, is the town screwed then? And it's like, shouldn't we stay and try and help? And it's like, Cliff was already kind of likable, but this is the moment of like, no.
He's the one that steps up.
Yeah, he's the noble one who wants to protect the town, and the other characters all kind of give in. Crazy Jane's the sort of the most reluctant. And she's the one that ends up convincing everyone to like get off the bus and say, "Let's turn around and go and help Cliff. We shouldn't let him do this alone." I kind of like how Larry doesn't actually say anything.
Rita just goes. Larry says yes.
It's because do you know what I like about it? It's not so much that she's forcing him; it's that she knows from his grunt that he's like thinking about it, that he wants to do it, but he doesn't like that he wants to do it. So she's just reading his body language and
they've known each other for decades.
Yeah. So they come back, and the synth music at this point was great. See when they were getting off the bus and all walking the line, like I was, oh man, I'm so into this. Like I'm really rooting for this team all of a sudden. Like I'm really into it. And Mr. Nobody claps his hands and makes this vortex open up in the ground, which is how we end the episode.
Yeah, you just hit click at what the hell's that?
Yeah. And that's how we wrap it up. And obviously some details I've glossed over here as we've been going. As we said, Rita was kind of awful. We see her in our movie set. She's distracted by someone who's only got one arm. The pull focus has only got one arm, and if you don't know what that is for anyone at home, just in case you're probably thinking, what's a focus pull? Basically, you obviously on a camera you've got focus. Because camera movements on a movie or a TV show are so intricate, usually you have someone whose job it is just to adjust the focus. As the camera's operating, and they'll have markers and stuff, but that'll be just their job. So he does that, and there's a great irony to that for her character, because she is awful to someone because they're different, and then she becomes very different, and it's kind of it almost felt Twilight Zone-esque, because it was just desserts. It was someone getting comeuppance for who they were.
Yeah, I thought it was really weird. When she falls through the bridge into the water, and you have like the director or whoever it was, and there's two of them, run up. And they just look down and go, look back. Come on, then, come and help her. And then they all run up, and they all just kind of stand there. And it's the guy who's in the shot, who's on the boat, who's like, oh, fine, I'll go in and get her.
No one's wanted to.
They take ages. Like no one wants to go in this water and get.
I'm expecting that we'll maybe explore more of like the energy that hit her, and also obviously the negative energy that hit Larry down the line. Right now, they're kind of just mysterious, but I'm expecting that to be a thing.
I really like the way all the flashbacks, the time periods were shot. They all look different and distinct.
Yeah, because she was from the 50s, Rita that is, and then Larry was the 60s. Obviously, Cliff was the end of the 80s. Yeah. Crazy Jane, you mentioned she was around at the mansion in the 70s, which is weird because she was missing for a long time then. If Cliff's been here for decades, and
yeah, they mention that she comes and goes, and she always has done. So yeah, who knows?
I like all four of the main characters, and by the end of the episode, like I say, I was really rooting for them. I was really like, this band of misfits deserves to win, right? Like I want them to win. Yeah, and obviously we're just getting started here, and we'll see where this wraps up. It did say special guest appearance by Timothy Dalton, so I'm wondering if he actually disappears for a while, like if Mr. Nobody takes him.
It was inside the actual opening credits, though. It wasn't just like along the bottom where it said that. So it might be one of those where it's relatively regular.
Yeah, it makes me wonder though if they maybe don't plan for him to be back for season 2.
Possibly. Well, we should mention obviously because he's the only one that was recast between the Titans episode and this. Timothy Dalton's just better in every way, isn't he?
Oh, of course he is. Yeah.
The obviously you haven't got that weird accent going on. And it's a lot more nuanced because I think in Titans, Calder was very overtly sinister. Whereas here there is that veiled sinister level, but Timothy Dalton's pretty good at that, but he's got that charm on top of it.
Yeah,
That
no.
I think that was missing in the Titans episode, because he's got the charisma here to go, yeah, this is why these people stay here, why they kind of trust me with their lives. I didn't really buy that in Titans.
Yeah, no. No, Dalton's good. I like all the cast actually, all the main cast I like.
Yeah, me too.
Obviously, Crazy Jane's got a tough job. The actress has to do a lot of different sort of
Yeah,
personas.
yeah. So far, so good. We'll wait and see how it plays out. Because I said before this started that she's got the most challenging job, and you've got to have someone who's a really good actress to pull this off with that many personalities. So far, the 2 or 3 we've seen have all been good. There's been nothing stand out yet, but I mean, she probably gets the least amount of time, and by the nature of her showing up relatively late in the episode.
Yeah, she doesn't get any flashbacks like the others do. She just.
Yeah.
I mean, she gets a decent introduction in the sense that we have her big scene where she kind of switches with Cliff. There's a little visual thing they've added for when she changes personality.
A little shimmer over her face.
Which I get. I like it in the sense of that we always know she's changed.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, maybe they would have wanted to like try and trick us here or there, like which one is it? But I think for some of them, because I don't think like say Jane and like the Hangman's daughter are necessarily like distinguishable immediately.
No, I agree, and also they can still play that of when she comes out of when she's off camera and she comes in to the shot, and it's like, okay, which one are we dealing with?
Yeah, absolutely. So no, I am feeling really positive with this. Outside of some of the effects, feeling a bit cheap.
Yeah, but I'm willing to let them slide that. We'll mention them if they're particularly bad. In the future.
Oh yeah, I mean, I mention it because I think it's worth mentioning, not because I think it drags it down, or because I think it's like a major complaint.
No, of course. I agree with you. But I think what we mention every episode, if they're just at this level.
Yeah.
It's just if there's one that's particularly bad, we'll mention that, I think.
Yeah. Because one of the little details I liked as well at the end when they're walking in line towards the potential enemy is that Rita's leg goes, right? Her leg starts to melt, kind of like it has done.
Yeah.
And they just kind of look at her, just kind of like, and it's not like a case of, oh, we'll stop and try and like make her go back to normal. It's just like, no, it's fine. Just keep going.
Just keep going.
You're one of us. We're weirdos. Let's do this. Yeah. And she kind of smiles and goes, all right. And then they just keep going again. And for me, that kind of sums up kind of the point of this group and the point of this show. So weirdos can save the world. Weirdos are people too. There you go. That's your log line.
It's real good though.
For the thing, yeah. No, I really liked the first episode. I am looking forward to more. So
yeah,
that's
me too.
Titan. That's not Titan. Sorry, that's Doom Patrol.
How
episode
dare
1.
you?
Well, didn't we just love Doom Patrol? I'm sure we said all sorts of nice things. I say I'm sure because I mean we recorded that almost a week ago. I can't remember.
Yeah, I mean, as this goes up, it'll be a full week after that Doom Patrol review.
Yeah. It's been 6 days since we recorded it at the time of recording. But that will take us on to Supergirl, which is season 4, episode 12. It's called Menagerie. So full spoilers for each episode as we talk about them, of course. So this episode, in tradition with a lot of Supergirl this season and even last season, there's some good, there's some bad, there's some ugly.
No. There's good, there's bad, and then there's James.
I think that's a bit unfair. Lena's just as much to blame.
She's not.
She's
had good things on her own. James hasn't.
I don't know,
a long time.
Every scene with either of them in this episode was bugging me. Like even scene where Haley comes to speak to Lena about the government contract.
I'll give you that one.
I was just like, here we go. I didn't start doing this, research into can we give humans powers so the military could use it and weaponize it.
No, I did it so I could weaponize it.
Because my name's a Luthor, damn it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, so yeah, and they break up at the end of the episode because James is like, I want to support you in everything you do, but I can't get behind you giving this over to the military and the government. And she's like, well, I guess that's it then. He's like, well, I guess that's it. We're done. All right, stop the car.
I want to say good, but I suspect somehow this isn't the end.
No, they're going to have a lot of awkward moments now together.
Yeah.
But she does actually, phone up and say, "Yeah, I'm in. I'm going to give you my tech," which maybe does get us down the path of Lena going full evil.
We're getting there. We're getting there. If she does leak the show this season, as has been rumored, that will be the one disappointment. Will be that, because even if they do it now, it's too late this season to get full evil. I want a season of her as the villain.
Yeah, no, I get you. I mean, it's the thing we're going back to with a lot of these CW shows is there's just too many characters, and it doesn't give everyone enough time to get the development they need. And some of them just feel like they're doing things because they have to be doing something, not because there's actually character or dramatic weight to it or anything like that.
Yeah.
Because I think time and time again, I feel like so many characters takes away from Supergirl herself. I feel like she doesn't get the focus of what a main character should have, where the show's about her arc. Instead, she feels like she's part of a big ensemble. And here Kara has a good story here for the most part, where it's kind of a funny little thing where she's trying to work with Alex because she misses doing it, but they're trying to do it in a sort of roundabout way where she doesn't know she's Supergirl. So it's like, oh, Carol will join along as a reporter because she helped investigate, and Alex keeps being like, oh no, she was too dangerous, she'll get hurt. And obviously Kara's like, oh,
and John's there going, oh, for God's sake, should have saw this coming.
Yeah. And Kara's like, finding safes with her X-ray vision, then just pretending she's like hitting things off walls, like, oh, look at that, there's a safe here.
Yeah. Why the hell is she not being given gloves? Crime scene, everyone's wearing gloves. She's just wandering around and leaning on things. No. Give us some damn latex gloves. It really annoyed me that she just went over and leant on this wall to open this safe, and no one said a thing.
I mean, I don't disagree, but I don't care that much.
It annoyed me because it made a point of Alex put on some gloves. She was there with gloves on.
Mm-hmm.
So why wouldn't you give? It bugged me. It really bugged me.
Well, we have that, and she's done her best. She doesn't even appear as Supergirl until the thing's really getting rough at the end, and she has to fight the alien chick, who is a woman, the jewel thief who has merged with an alien, a symbiote, you might say.
They do say.
And it's a alien called the Menagerie, and at one point she hears the voice of the alien. I mean, it's only in one scene. They don't really spend that much time on it, but it is clear like, hey, this is our Venom, wink wink.
There's a point where it pops out, because it comes out like over her shoulder.
Yeah.
It pops out and says, "We are Menagerie." I'm like, all right, I get it.
Yeah. No, it's a bit much, but the villain's not good. The villain's bad for sure. It's one of the elements of the episode that don't really work that well. It's just kind of there to be the thing that's there.
Yeah, but she's not going away.
She's not, because at the end, Manchester Black's recruiting for his elite.
Yeah.
So
because knockoff Venom screams elite. So it's exactly what I think of.
She's fine to just be part of his team, though. It's whatever.
I know.
Just do whatever.
I'm just. It's an easy target.
Yeah, I mean the rest of the episode's kind of hit and miss. It's like. The idea of what's his face, Lockwood, like him using his son to like put out more propaganda. Okay, that's fine. The fact that it works by the end of the episode and he gets out of prison, a bit too quick.
Yeah, there's a lot of things I feel are a bit too quick. Nia, like the start of the episode, Brainy comes over and it's like, yeah, no, I'm not ready for this yet. I'm grieving.
The scene on its own is actually really entertaining. Like him just like wiping things off the table and the counter for his case and stuff like that, and her just like reacting to it. That's very funny. I actually have a bigger problem with Nia's thing in this episode, though, is that so she makes the choice. She sees on TV that Supergirl's fighting this alien and that people are in danger, and she makes the choice that, hey, I can be here. And I do kind of like that Kara's the thing that inspired her, because she came and spoke to her and like, admitted that Alex doesn't know who she is, and your family now, blah blah blah, right? Nia jumps in full costume, right? And my problem with this is that the first time she ever publicly jumps in full costume, the first time we ever see her as a hero on the show, she doesn't use her unique power to save the day, or like her unique abilities is what wins the fight. She jumps in and hits the thing with a pipe. Anyone could have jumped in and hit it with a pipe. She just happened to be wearing a costume.
I agree. It frustrates me just, it's too quick, like in the sense of, I know we've been building up to her, becoming a hero, don't get me wrong. But it felt like it was still a couple of episodes away from where we were at the start of this episode of, no, she's grieving. She knows that she's going to get there eventually, but she's not there yet. I don't think that she went through enough in this episode to go, do you know what? I'm there.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair. Even though the individual scenes, for the most part, were enjoyable on their own.
Yes. Yeah. No, I agree. It's only when it got to the end where I was like, this moment's too soon.
Yeah. And I did have fun with Brainy, like, looking up Valentine's stuff and sneaking it behind Alex, and even when he was, because I really laughed at the end when she turned round and all the Valentine stuff was on the main screens and the
Yeah.
DEO. Yeah, it was a good
It's
chuckle.
fine. He's multitasking.
He's multitasking. Or even when he takes the sample in the closet, he's just there at the party. Like, I'll do this in here. I'll be a few minutes.
Yeah.
I'm hiding from the roommate because apparently every song is her jam, and it's the way he says it. It's like her jam.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's jam entertaining. So and this is kind of the Valentine's episode. I guess this
You
was
just say kind of. It opens with, "Hey, look, it's Valentine's."
well, I say kind of because it's late.
To be fair, when this aired, it was only 3 days after.
Oh, true. Yeah, because Supergirl's quite far back when we get to recording these. That's true.
Because this was on the Sunday the 17th.
That's fair. Okay, fair enough. It's not that
So,
late. It's actually.
I think it's unusual. Typically, when they do these holiday episodes, they usually come the week leading up to, because once you go past it, it's like, okay, that's done now.
I wonder if it was meant to be the week before with everything else, because obviously this was technically off at a slightly different time than the others.
Yeah.
I wonder if they just had to push it back a week because of reasons, like technical
Could be, yeah.
reasons. Something got delayed and internally or whatever, and
Yeah.
here it is. I don't know. Lockwood's son actually killing, or at least thinking they've killed the alien with the pretty cool light up machete.
Yeah. I'll have one of those, please.
Yes, cool light up machete. That's the thing. So that was that stuff. The president releases Lockwood. He's
like, we need a loophole.
Because the people support him too much. So I want him on our side. I want the
Yeah.
people on our side with him.
Yeah.
So.
And they find just, oh, hey, that thing that he did doesn't cover aliens. We're good. We'll let him go.
The Patriot Act. It was just. I would describe this episode as just thoroughly okay.
Yeah, I agree with that.
There's not a lot in it that I really love. I love like, the brainy scenes are fun. Kara tends to be quite good and inspirational, but for the most part, like it was just because at the end of the episode, the alien stings Kara's eyes with the alien venom, right? The viper poison, and it's like, okay, fine, and she uses her breath to like get her away, so she's to help her in the fight. But while her eyes are still rough, she can't she's fixing them, and that's why the kid has the chance to like decapitate the alien thing. Not the woman herself, and we see at the end she's still got a parasite in her. It's not completely gone.
Yeah.
But they think he's killed it. Like she wanted to intervene, she couldn't, and that's okay to a point. But it does kind of feel like so much of this, and the Flash is guilty of this a lot as well, where it kind of has to somehow explain why Supergirl just couldn't do a thing, so it gives someone else something to do. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think this was more frustrating than in the Flash, though. In the sense of, you didn't even need to do this, really.
I feel the Flash is guilty of it more often, though.
No, Flash is guilty of it more. But at least I guess I forgive the Flash a little bit more in that, oh, hey, super speed, he can just round them all up, right? So you've got to do something. Whereas this situation here, it felt like there was other ways to do this.
Yeah.
There were other ways around it that you didn't need to just right away around it.
So, I don't know. This is what it is. I think the episode is just kind of a mediocre one for the season. There's some things I like, there's some things I really dislike that I've went into. The villain's just kind of this mundane thing in the middle. Sure, you laugh when you realise they're doing a Venom knockoff, but it doesn't even. She's not even that much of the episode. Like she's just kind of there when the plot really requires the villain to be there. Otherwise, it's not a big deal. It's not about her at all.
No. I guess the other thing is the stuff that we took away from Alex's mind has affected her more. She's not been looking into getting a kid anymore.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, she runs into this Becca or whatever her name is at the party, and she doesn't remember her name. And
I'm still not sure if she's been forgotten for some reason to do with the mind wipe, or if she just doesn't remember.
It probably doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, because I think the important part is that the drive to like make sure she's got time for all these things is gone because the mind wipe happened. Because they're selling it as she needs to protect Kara and everyone so much that she doesn't have time to do it. She can't let her hair down, essentially. So I can kind of accept that it's either or. It's not really a big deal which one it is. But she does say she's going to call her, and yeah, that's fine. Like, that's one of those little plots. It's like, okay, there's nothing wrong with this. It doesn't take much time up. It's fine.
Yeah, I got no problem with it. It's not like, oh, this is really good, but yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, so it was an okay episode. I don't have a.
It's really by the numbers, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't have any hot takes for this one. It's kind of okay.
Yeah,
it's not particularly good, but it's not particularly bad either.
I agree with that. Just makes it less interesting to talk about, I guess. But
yeah. That'll take us on to The Flash from the 1990s. This is season 1, episode 4. It's called Double Vision. So, what is this episode? Joe, it's weird coming back to this after not watching it for a while.
Yeah.
Just because I'd forgotten how it felt and what the music was like, and like just
okay, I'm with you.
Just all the features of it. So, and how every episode seems to have at least a couple of characters who are just there for that episode. Like suddenly Barry's good friends with this Hispanic couple who have a daughter, like who run a restaurant. Like, okay, sure.
Why not?
But yeah, it turns out she's not really their daughter though. She's the daughter of this powerful man who's going to testify against this drug lord, and the bad guy wants her, so that they want to find her so that he won't testify. And they do this. He hires this outside contractor who has a painted power glove from a Nintendo system.
Yep.
That's what it is.
It's probably the exact thing.
Yes. And a VR headset, and he implants the Flash with something when they've got him knocked out, so that he can control the Flash and see through the Flash's eyes, although with a pixely kind of effect.
Horrible effect.
And that's the premise of this episode, is that he starts taking over the Flash, and Barry's losing like 8 hours of time, and he's like, I don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
He also has a bowl of cereal that's like this huge bowl that he pours the entire box of cereal into.
This seems to be the first episode where he addressed that he needs to eat a lot.
This isn't the first time we've addressed that.
Is it not? Okay. It felt like it was going over it so much this episode that I was like, this must be the first time we've talked about it on this show.
No, it's been a running thing. You don't remember him having the briefcase full of candy bars and stuff like that?
Oh, that's true.
There's been tons of little
things. It just
things.
Felt like there was so much of it in this episode.
There was a lot. He was eating like, multiple pizzas, and he was eating, various things.
Joe, with the cereal specifically, I was really glad he started eating it with the speed, because I'm like, those are going to get soggy real quick, and then that's going to be shite. And then he addressed it afterwards, so I was like, all right, fair play.
Also, I didn't feel like he poured in enough milk compared to how much cereal there was.
Well, it depends how you like it, I suppose.
It does. It's certainly my ratio, that was not even close to it.
Fair enough.
Not that I've ever made a bowl of cereal this big before, although, I'm tempted to try it.
I would if I could eat it at super speed, because I don't want to go soggy.
You have to do multiple bowls so you can...
Yeah.
You can time it right, this is true. So he's losing time, and they end up using him to kidnap the girl once they realise who it is. And I feel like I've talked about this whole plot already, but there is little other things. Like there's the local like shaman dude in the community. It's the Day of the Dead festival's going on. Lawrence from Westworld is there, and his young like 22-year-old self.
Yeah. It's weird, isn't it?
It is weird. It's like it took me a second to realise it was him, but it was the mouth. It was the way he was smirking. I was like, that's Lawrence.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And Tina's worried about him, but I mean that's pretty much it. Like eventually she just does some stuff on her computer and is like, oh, I can interrupt the signals that are making you do things.
Yeah, we're all good.
And that was pretty much it. The daughter, who's like 20, does flirt with Barry a lot, and he I think when she tries to give him her phone number or whatever, he's like, hey, I stopped babysitting like 10 years ago or something like that, he says. And I'm like, oh, that's a burn.
That is.
Poor girl. But that's basically the episode. I mean, how did you feel about it? Did you enjoy it?
Enjoy? Strong word.
Mm-hmm.
It was fine, though. It wasn't like, oh, this is really bad.
Yeah.
It's not... It feels how I feel about a lot of this show, though. It's all right.
With the time it was made, that in context, it's okay.
Yeah. It's all right. I don't hate it.
His buddy Julio, though, like, his thing just seems to be to talk about how much of his love life is going on. Like, that's all he ever does. He shows up, Barry will talk to him about something, he'll joke about how his girlfriend Sabrina is, like, rocking his world, and then that'll be it. That'll be the inclusion. He'll help with one key plot detail per episode, and that's it. He's such a non-character.
Really is, yeah.
Which is bizarre, because it feels like all of the character development every episode seems to go to whoever the guest star is.
It does, yeah.
It's really weird. It's a really weird, old-fashioned way of making TV. Which, I mean, I guess it is older. I get that, but like,
it feels like they haven't decided on. Oh, okay, what's the cast actually going to be? Like, we'll test run a few different people over the first 6 episodes.
See, I don't think it's that. I think this was just how a lot of TV was done, where you'd have one or two main characters, and everyone else, it was like, yeah, he always knew these people the whole time. Like,
yeah.
Like
yeah, I get it.
I think that's just how a lot of TV was done. It makes other things feel really ahead of the time, like Twin Peaks, and because that was the same year, I think, more or less.
God, how the hell was Twin Peaks the same year as this?
I know, it's so strange. So yeah, it's an okay episode. The most memorable things about it are the guy with the visor, VR goggles. He has like these little metal things on the side of his head, and he's kind of cheesy the way he rants about things, and
yeah.
That's kind of the most standout stuff of the episode.
Yeah, it's all kind of meaningless though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just like, yeah, we'll do some stuff. None of it feels like it has any sort of value.
Yeah, Barry's into Mexican wrestling. He bonds with the shaman dude over a lucha libre that he liked, and that's kind of it.
Yeah.
I don't. I mean, it really is. There's really not much to the episode.
I feel Barry eats a lot and spends some time with his dog.
Yes, and he's worried briefly. Like, I feel like the premise of someone takes control of the Flash's body has a lot of dramatic potential, because what could they make him do that he will have a hard time living with, that he would feel regret over them using his body for, and they never really make him do anything that much.
We don't even really see what he does for most of it. It's like, 8 hours went missing. He didn't really do much.
Yeah,
I mean, as far as we're concerned.
Yeah, it feels like something that could have big dramatic ramifications, and instead it's just kind of, by the end of the episode, it's like, well, all that happened. We've resolved it. It's fine.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, okay. We'll move on then. I feel like we're going to have more to say about Gotham, so we'll move on to Gotham, which was season 1, episode 5. It's called Viper. If you're thinking Viper, that sounds very similar to Venom, right? Or related to Venom. That's because it is. It's like a prototype for Venom.
It's Venom,
which is what Bane uses in the comics. Well, no, because this stuff kills the person after a while. Whereas obviously by the time Bane's going to use it in season 5, because we know he's in season 5, we saw the awful set photo of him in costume. It's been perfected and does not do that.
Yeah.
But we do have some really, really silly scenes of this junky guitarist guy running away with an ATM machine that he's ripped out the wall, and he's just running with it on his back, and it was one of the funniest cutaways of the whole thing. Oh, what was the line the guy in the store said to him?
Something about being a god.
Yeah. It was something like, it was a really funny line that made us both laugh. Oh my god. This was like 2 nights ago. I can't remember.
Well, I was hammered. That's my excuse.
That's your excuse.
It came back up again though, because when Bullock and Gordon went in, the guy, the shopkeeper said the line that's what he said, and Gordon's like, really? That's what he said? Yeah.
It was something really funny, but he says this ridiculous line. He's running around with this ATM machine, and then later on, when Gordon and Bullock catch up to him, he tries to lift it over his head to throw it to him, but then the venom runs out and it crushes him, and it is this god awful CGI that just looks
wrong.
It looks like he looks wrong. The ATM machine looks wrong. The way he breaks and like gets squished looks wrong. Everything about it looks ridiculous. And I realized when I was watching this episode, this was the final one I ever saw back when it aired. Like, this is when I gave up the show. Between Balloon Man and then this Venom shit, this is when I quit.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Because I said a few times, like, I know I saw this episode. Like, I know I did, because I know I got further than this. And it wasn't until one scene at the end where I was like, oh, I remember this scene. All of this stupid, shitty Venom stuff, gone. Wipe that from my memory.
Yeah, because there's like a radical scientist who wants to basically motivate the world into change. So he gives it to some more people, they have more cases of it, and then eventually he tries to to use it on this gala for rich people, which of course Bruce Wayne's going to, because simultaneously young Bruce Wayne, has been investigating the Wayne's documents and is like, there's something shady going on about the financing of this Arkham and all this other stuff.
I need to talk to the board.
He wants to talk to the board, so he's trying to do that, and Alfred's very against it. And I'll give the one good idea of the episode is basically at the end of the episode, because Alfred's been against him doing it whole episode, but after the attack at the party, and discovering, because the guy in the video says Wayne's behind like funding this stuff, this Venom, Alfred sits down with him and starts looking through the research with him, and it's kind of a little moment, and it's not extremely well done, but conceptually I do like the idea of the moment where Alfred says, I'm not going to keep fighting him on this, I'm going to help him because there's some truth to it. He's actually digging at something, even if the kid actor's not that great, and I'm not actually enjoying the plot.
In theory, there's something there.
Yeah, there's the moment where Alfred says, I'm going to back him up rather than try and stop him.
Yeah.
Because obviously Alfred is ultimately going to back him up in a lot of ways, because he's Alfred. But he tries to, poison this gala or whatever, and Gordon has to stop him and shoot the pipe and whatnot. So it all, he gives him like super strength, but the guy just jumps off the building instead of doing anything with it.
Yeah, as you do.
As you do. Meanwhile, Maroni, upon hearing that Penguin used to work for Fish, gets upset with him and has Gordon brought in for a chat.
Yeah. Wants to corroborate this story.
Yeah, because Penguin's apparently told him the whole story of what happened to him, and he wants Gordon to tell his version of it, and if they match, then he'll be okay, he'll be happy that you let him live, and so on. So Gordon tells his story, and it does match. It's a little bit weird that we hear the whole thing, because it's everything we know already. Like, it really could have cut away and come back at the end.
It felt like, here's a recap of the first episode.
Kind of did, yeah. And so he's happy that it matches, and then because Penguin was like, hey, I know a guy that can get us into the Falcone casino, because he wants to steal from him just to piss him off, not because he actually needs the money. It's just about pissing him off.
I get that.
And so they're sitting there in the car waiting for the guys to come back from the heist, and it's like, if they don't come back and your intel was bad, you're dead right now. But the guys come back and it's like, see, I told you this guy was a player, and it's like, okay, so Maroni, even though he was pissed that he used to work for Fish, now seems to be starting to trust him, because he actually, everything he said,
because Fish had him whacked.
Yes, Fish is proven useful. It sounds like he's going to call Gordon again for a favour at some point, because now they're in bed together, as it were.
Yeah.
Because obviously, Gordon doesn't want anyone to know that Penguin's still alive.
Yeah, so he's just got this blackmail on him now.
So we'll see how that goes. I'm going to assume that Falcone will be dead by the end of the season. Now, I don't know if I'm right in that. The reason why I'm assuming that is because technically Penguin existing is going to be known by everyone, and it can't lead to Gordon's death because Gordon's going to be here for the whole show. So yeah. I have to assume the person at the top who wanted it in the first place has to be gone.
Did the order come from Falcone, or did it come from Fish? I don't remember well enough.
I mean, it went through Fish at the very least. I don't know if maybe she was the one who...
I mean, I know it went through Fish, but if it was her idea, then, well, I mean, problem solved. Yeah,
because we know Fish is definitely gone after season 1. Yeah, maybe it is Fish. Maybe it is Fish that needs to be taken out. But speaking of Fish... What a sentence.
Suppose we should. From penguins to fish.
She's still training this girl that she recruited last episode to be the perfect seductress for Falcone by having her learn his favourite songs, drink the sort of wine that he would like, all that kind of stuff. And I really started to question during some of these scenes, like, how do you know him so well that you have the perfect, like, profile of who could seduce him? Like, it feels so... like to a fault, like how perfect this is.
Yeah, it does.
But the episode ends with her like just wandering in front of him, but he's at the park or whatever, and she's humming this aria from something, and he's like, "Oh, you are humming this thing, oh," and he asks her to sit down and listen to music together. So the plan's in motion.
Somehow that's the one scene I remembered.
And weirdly, me too. I remembered him in the steps, like being. I don't know, hypnotized, I guess we'll call it.
Yeah, that's the bit I remember. None of that Venom shite. This.
And it's weird because the Venom stuff should be memorable.
Yeah, it should, because, it's Venom. Well, this is as close to Venom as we had in Supergirl.
Wait, what?
Oh, come on. The knockoff in Supergirl this
No,
week.
I get you, but what's your point? Why are you comparing it?
I'm saying they are equally as close to what Venom is supposed to be in their respective areas.
I guess.
This is just like, it's not really, is it?
I mean,
Yeah.
it's another example of this using something from Batman, and I highly doubt they even knew at this point that we're going to eventually get to use actual Bane. It was,
Of course they
it was
didn't.
just like, we can get to use Venom and call it Venom.
Yeah, yeah, we'll do that. That'll do.
I mean, they call it Viper most of the time, but eventually they go to the scientist who helped create it, and he's like, yes, it's a type of Venom, or
They do name drop. Oh, it's called. It was going to be called Venom. Yeah, like, they do officially use the name.
They do. So before we go on to Batman the Animated Series, I did check what that line of dialogue was that we were talking about in the store with the drugged up Venom guy. He said, "Don't vex me, mortal."
What was it? Yeah. And the guy's like, yeah, whatever, Zeus.
Yeah, we broke out in a fit of laughter. Actually, it reminded me of something else I wanted to talk about. I'd forgotten about it because it was such a standalone thing. Is as the guy gets the drug, for some reason there's a random shot of Catwoman, a young Catwoman, Selena Kyle,
slinking across a car.
Yeah, she sort of like slides in the car. I remember complaining about this at the time. Actually, I didn't remember what episode it was in, but like they have her do all these like sexy moves across cars and like sliding down things, like, and it's like adult Catwoman being kind of seductive.
And she's like 15,
if that.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm guessing.
But it's just really like, why is she moving around like this? And it's also broad daylight. Why is she doing this in the morning on a taxi cab?
And also, why is it here? Because it adds nothing at any point to anything else in the episode.
She never pops up again. That's why I forgot about it, because there was no Selena for the rest of it. So I wanted to mention it because when I was checking the line of dialogue, I noticed that in the timeline. I was like,
saw her slink across the car and went, "Oh yeah, that."
Yeah, that stupid scene. Anyway, on to Batman the Animated Series. This is our 7th episode of this, I think, and it's The Forgotten.
I think it's 8.
Is it the 8th one? Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
There you go, the 8th one. It's called The Forgotten, and this is an episode where Batman's investigating the disappearance of some homeless people, and ends up being knocked unconscious and getting amnesia, and because he goes undercover as a homeless person himself, and he's trying to find out where they're going, and he gets knocked out, and he gets amnesia, and he wakes up in this slave work camp where this fat crime boss dude is making them work for next to nothing.
Yes, with a disgusting tongue, this guy.
Yeah, he's always eating something. He's always greasy. He's a big, fat guy. He's if anyone says anything he doesn't like, he puts them in the tank, the hole. I think they call it the hole, but it's the. It makes me think of Bridge on the River Kwai. If anyone's ever seen that, it's a war camp, and they've got this metal box where they put them in as a punishment. But Bruce doesn't remember who he is, and there is like a subplot of Alfred like saying, "Where's Master Bruce? Well, this is weird." And he's searching. He's got like a tracker, and he's searching the city. And then eventually, there's a wacky scene where he's flying the Batwing with a helmet on, through the canyons and stuff. But Bruce, for a long time, doesn't remember who he is, and he's just working with them, and he sees how bad the conditions are. He gets thrown in the tank. And it's actually when he's in the tank, because he's like, I think the standout scenes might be a couple of dream sequences where he realizes who he is. There's one where he's like walking down a hall of mirrors and he sees like the Bruce Wayne version of himself, and then he sees it turn into the Joker and like pull him through a window, and that's like a nightmare he has early on.
No, that's real good stuff. I think as well, on top of that, it's just the idea that even when he doesn't remember who he is, he doesn't remember that he's Batman, he's still fundamentally just a good person. Yeah,
he's a good person. I guess my only critique is that he's able to kick out the box once he remembers who he is. It's almost as if he got extra strength because he remembered he's Batman.
Muscle memory. Okay. Just like, oh yeah, I can do this.
Well, he kind of did muscle memory before, because when they get into a fight with the guards at one point, he does really well. Like he takes them on, and he's like, I don't even know how I can do that.
Yeah. No,
but he does.
It's good stuff, though.
Yeah, but the dream obviously remembers his parents being murdered. Like, so I think
it all comes back to him, and the tragedy is there again.
Yeah, the other guy mentions his family or something, his daughter, and he starts thinking about his parents, and it leads to the realization that he's Batman. So Alfred, he goes on the run, he escapes and runs into Alfred, and then comes back the next day or whatever as Batman to take on the bad guy. And they don't have a stand a chance. I think that's part of the thing that makes this so fun, is that as soon as he knows who he is, they're
screwed.
He's got
this, yeah.
Yeah, they're screwed. And he comes and, the bad guy tries to take him on with a shotgun. He's kind of disgusting. He ends up they end up chasing him to the mines. This is where we get some of probably the best art style stuff of the episode. There's some great stuff where it's all black with just like a light blue sort of like highlight on things. So it's almost like it goes black and white in a sense for like a couple of sequences.
Yeah, it really works. I wasn't really feeling the music in this episode. It was all these Western themes. Is the closest I can describe it. I didn't feel like it quite fit.
Yeah, I was noticing actually the main thing that was kicking in. It was like it was kind of similar to what the stuff I really liked from the Last Laugh was doing, but it was a bit more bombastic and rocky, I guess.
Yeah,
and it felt like it was intruding a bit more. I'll agree with that.
Yeah.
But no, I liked the fight sequence because it had the stylized lighting from the lanterns.
Oh yeah, that looked good. That looked great.
And Batman corrects a joke at the end. They dive into the water and it's like,
guys, like, don't let me drown.
It's like, when you tasted the prison, because the joke is he's always eating, right? So he's like, when you taste the food in prison, you'll wish I hadn't. So he's got a little joke at the end, and then the real humor at the end though is like, the other guys get back to their families and they're going to get jobs, and they're saying, hey Bruce, if you need any help, we can help you get a job too. And then Alfred comes up in the Rolls Royce and is like, Master Bruce, your car awaits you. And they're like, wait, what? Can I get knocked out and wake up as a millionaire, please?
Yeah. And Bruce is like, hey, give us a call. I'll set you up with some jobs.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, I've got plenty of jobs I can give you. I want a company.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. So, that was the episode. It's funny. This is one of these ones where it's actually a really solid episode. It just doesn't have the big villain to talk about. Like, this is the show's interpretation of this classic villain. It doesn't have that.
No.
Just for discussion's sake.
Yeah, it's a really good episode, though. It's really solid. It's very much this character study of, just showing that, Bruce Wayne still is a good person, and the tragedy didn't make him good. It just made him Batman.
Yes. Better than, say, Scott Snyder did it in the Batman comic for about 12 issues.
I don't disagree with that. I actually, because when I watched this, I thought it's very similar to the point of that, the moment at the end of that run of the comics is he's like, you know what, I'm a good person, I'm doing good things, but ultimately I need to be Batman, right? I need the tragedy to make me into that.
Which, I mean, that's the part of that comic run I liked, was that final realization. But all of it before that, I I could have done without.
I'm not talking about the quality of it before, but I mean, that specific moment, I think it captures. Probably intentionally taken from this, because Snow's a big fan of animated series. It's peppered throughout his run, all these references. So it wouldn't be surprise me if he's like, no, I really like that episode. I like what it did. I'm gonna put that in there.
Yeah, but I thought I'd get that dig in because it has been done in the comics probably multiple times actually. At this point, to be honest,
that's the most recent.
That's the recent one, and it's also a really big example because it was like 2 full arcs of stuff.
Yeah.
But so there you go. That's the Forgotten, which does bring us to the end of the show. Now we did have 2 new episodes, so we could pick our favorite of the week. It's probably quite obvious that it's Doom Patrol because Supergirl was just a so-so episode, and Doom Patrol was like, that was a great first episode. So
yeah, obviously it's been a week since we watched Doom Patrol. I can still comfortably remember more of that than I can Supergirl.
It's not a full week. Don't say that because then they'll be saying, why has episode 2 not been reviewed? This has been 6 days because we record on Thursdays, so we're doing the last episode of the DC Universe show. Finish your point.
I can't remember what the point was now. You distracted me.
Oh, well then, that's the end of the show. Doom Patrol wins episode of the week. So, let us know what you think about the episodes that we talked about in the show. You can get us on the Twitters at mailed_fuzz for channel updates, or at DC Comics Podcast for specific DC stuff. You can get us on Patreon at patreon.com/mailfuzztv if you want to support the show and the channel and everything we do here and keep the shows coming. As we said earlier, next week may be a weird, quieter, shorter episode because Connor's on vacation for most of the week, and we'll be just kind of squeezing in the new Doom Patrol and maybe another thing or two to sort of give it more of a show as opposed to just a Doom Patrol review. But it will come a little bit later because Connor doesn't get back until the Friday, so we won't be doing it until the weekend, which does annoyingly mean that the third Doom Patrol will also actually already be out by the time our episode with the second review goes up. It's just the way it has to be, unfortunately. So brace yourself for that. But That has been this week's television from the multiverse. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching the superhero TV shows, guys, and remember that sometimes we screw things up for the better.